galaxy had always believed that Earth was small, quiet, and weak. Among the great empires of the stars, humanity was little more than a whisper, a minor world that spoke softly and carried nothing that seemed dangerous. Alien fleets crossed the void without fear of humans. Alien councils sat in vast chambers and laughed at Earth, calling it a place of dreamers and farmers, not warriors. Ships from other species often passed by the solar system, watching and recording. They saw only a planet that stayed silent. No great fleets, no star fortresses, no signs of power. And so the galaxy wrote Earth's name in the list of worlds that could never resist invasion. In their eyes, Earth was defenseless, but silence is not always weakness. Silence can be patience. Silence can be the calm before a storm. And Earth had been silent for a reason. For centuries, humanity had listened. They had watched the stars and heard the arrogance of the other civilizations. While the galaxy grew proud, humans prepared in secret, beneath oceans, under mountains, and hidden in the shadows of the moon. Something vast was being built. The people of Earth smiled outwardly, showing their peaceful side, while in secret, the greatest weapons of war ever made were taking shape. When the first alien fleet entered the outer rim of the solar system, no human voice spoke a warning. The aliens laughed at this. They believed they had already won. Their ships were enormous, sleek, and heavy with cannons. To them, Earth's silence was nothing more than surrender, but they did not know what waited in the dark. On Earth's surface, ordinary men and women went about their lives. Cities moved through their days as if nothing unusual was happening. Children played in the streets and workers built and traded as if the galaxy outside had no meaning. To the aliens, it seemed like proof of weakness. To the humans, it was part of the plan. For the truth of Earth's strength was hidden deep underground, where no alien eye had ever seen. The first signal came when the alien fleet crossed Neptune's orbit. A ripple passed through hidden networks across Earth. Deep bunkers came alive with light. Ancient command stations that had been silent for generations turned on. Across the oceans, under black waters, steel leviathans stirred. These were not submarines. They were not ships meant for sea. They were the first of the dreadnoughts, waiting like beasts in a cage, their hulls built to split the heavens apart. High above, on the far side of the moon, shadows broke apart. Great hangars, hidden for hundreds of years, opened slowly. Inside, warships that dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever seen began to rise. They moved without sound, their engines glowing faint red like the breath of a sleeping dragon. One by one, they drifted into the void, unseen by the alien scouts who still believed Earth to be harmless. The alien commanders prepared a message of mockery to send to Earth. They wanted to remind humans of their place, to remind them that they were nothing but prey in a galaxy ruled by stronger species. But before the message could be spoken, their sensors caught something strange. A vibration, low and steady, echoing across the black. At first they thought it was a fault in their machines. But the vibration grew. The silence of space began to tremble. Then they saw the lights. From the shadow of the moon, 3 colossal shapes emerged. They were not like any warship the aliens had ever seen. Their hulls were layered with black metal that seemed to drink the starlight. Red lines of energy pulsed across their sides, glowing brighter with every second. Towers rose from their backs, bristling with weapons that hummed like thunder. The aliens stared, unable to believe what they were seeing. The humans had dreadnoughts. The first alien officer to speak whispered in fear that such ships should not exist. Their size alone broke all logic. They were too vast, too powerful, built with knowledge that no weak species should ever have. But there they were, rising silently into the void, their engines burning brighter than suns. The alien fleet wavered. Some wanted to retreat at once, to carry the warning back to the galaxy. Others demanded they stay, that these ships were nothing more than tricks. But as they argued, more dreadnoughts appeared. From the oceans of Earth, from hidden bases, from places no alien had ever thought to look. 1, then 2, then 5, then 10. each one greater than the last, forming a wall of steel and fire between Earth and the galaxy. The aliens had called Earth silent. But now the silence was breaking. A voice came across the void, calm and steady, spoken in the human tongue but carried to every alien ship. It was the first time the galaxy had ever heard Earth speak with authority. The message was simple. You thought us weak. You thought us defenseless. Now you will see the truth of humanity. And with those words, the dreadnought's weapons came alive. The galaxy had mocked Earth's quiet world. Now the galaxy would learn what Earth had hidden in its silence. Rising tension, the alien fleet lingered at the edge of Earth's space, confident that the planet before them was still as weak as they had always believed. Their ships glowed with blue and silver light. Their cannons locked onto targets they thought would never fire back. They waited for Earth's leaders to speak, but the silence stretched on. To the aliens, this silence was proof of fear. To the humans, it was the final seconds before a storm. Far beneath the oceans, the dreadnoughts prepared to rise. Their cores glowed with energy older than any alien could imagine. The engineers of Earth had poured generations of knowledge into them, shaping ships not just of steel but of willpower. For years they had remained hidden, locked under layers of ocean and stone, waiting for the right moment, and now that moment had come. In the alien flagship, the commander smiled. His people had fought countless wars, conquered countless worlds, and Earth looked no different. A soft world filled with fragile bodies and fragile minds. He imagined how quickly it would burn when the order was given. He raised his hand to signal the fleet to begin its strike. But before his command could leave his lips, the void itself began to shift. A shadow, vast and unnatural, spread across their sensors. At first they believed it was a glitch. Then the shadow grew, stretching longer, broader, until its outline filled their vision. Out of the darkness a ship emerged. A ship larger than their entire flagship. The first dreadnought had awakened. Its hull was black, broken only by red lines of fire that pulsed like veins. Its engines flared, casting an orange glow that lit up the alien fleet. The commander froze in his seat, his thoughts silent. He had seen warships of every kind. He had seen cruisers the size of cities and battle stations that orbited stars. But nothing he had seen looked like this. The dreadnought moved like a mountain breaking free from the earth, a predator finally stepping into the light. One of the alien officers cried out in fear, another begged for orders. But the commander had none to give. He was staring into the face of something he did not understand, something that should not exist. And then the second dreadnought rose. This one came from the oceans, breaking the surface in silence, water rolling off its armored back as its massive form lifted into the sky. Red lightning rippled across its hull as if the ship itself was alive. With each second, more dreadnoughts appeared. From the moon's dark side, from hidden canyons, from vaults buried deep under Earth's crust. They came without sound, without fanfare, only a steady hum that grew louder as the fleet gathered. On Earth, billions of humans watched the skies. Some stood in streets pointing as the enormous ships passed overhead. Others fell to their knees whispering prayers. They had always known about the dreadnoughts. Stories of their construction had been passed down in silence, a secret carried through bloodlines. Now the secret was revealed. The world was no longer hiding. The alien fleet began to break. Some ships turned sharply, trying to retreat into the safety of the stars. Others stayed in place, frozen between fear and disbelief. Their commanders had promised them that Earth was defenseless. But the sight before them told another truth. The dreadnoughts began to form a wall, lining up in silence, their massive guns glowing faintly with power. The blackness of their armor reflected nothing, as if light itself refused to touch them. Their towers bristled with weapons the galaxy had never catalogued. And in the heart of each ship was a reactor that burned brighter than any sun. Still, the aliens did not fire. They wanted to believe this was a show, a desperate attempt to frighten them. Surely Earth could not fight. Surely no young species could stand against the galaxy's oldest empires. That lie was the last comfort they held. A human voice broke across the void again, steady and calm. It carried no anger, no panic, only certainty. This is your only warning. Leave our skies. Leave our world. Or face the fire you believed we did not have. The alien commander gripped the arm of his chair. His mind raced. Retreat meant shame, but war meant destruction. He hesitated, caught between pride and survival. But before he could decide, his fleet made the choice for him. One of the smaller alien captains, panicked and desperate, fired a shot at the nearest dreadnought. A streak of blue energy tore across the blackness, striking the human ship. The energy flashed against its hull and faded. The dreadnought did not even shift. To the aliens, it was as if their strongest weapon had hit a mountain and vanished. The dreadnought's guns came alive. Red light gathered at the tips of its cannons, brighter and brighter, until it drowned the stars around it. Then the first blast came. A beam of fire stretched across the void, cutting through the alien ship in an instant. The vessel that had fired was gone, split apart and reduced to wreckage before anyone could blink. The silence ended. Other dreadnoughts joined the strike, their weapons tearing into the alien formation. Entire cruisers vanished in a flash, broken apart like glass. The galaxy's finest ships were no more than shadows against the storm. The human fleet moved with precision, their fire coordinated, each shot placed with deadly care. The alien commander could only watch as his fleet crumbled. His voice shook as he gave the order to retreat, but it was already too late. The dreadnoughts were advancing, step by step, pushing the invaders out of Earth's skies. The galaxy had believed Earth was weak. The galaxy had believed humanity was defenseless. But in that moment, as dreadnoughts cut through the dark, those beliefs were shattered. First clashed the alien fleet, scattered like insects before fire, but scattering did not save them. The dreadnoughts advanced, their weapons glowing brighter with every passing second. Each human ship moved with calm precision, as if every action had been rehearsed 1,000 times in silence. They were not rushing, not striking wildly, but unfolding a power that had waited too long to remain hidden. The alien commander's voice trembled as he called for his ships to regroup. His words echoed through the comms, but the fleet no longer obeyed with confidence. Some captains were frozen in shock, their eyes fixed on the impossible sight of war machines larger than cities. Others turned their ships and fled, their pride burned away by fear. The once proud fleet that had surrounded Earth now fractured into chaos. The humans did not chase those who ran. They struck only at those who remained. One alien cruiser, desperate and shaking, fired its heavy cannon at a dreadnought rising from the ocean. A massive bolt of blue energy slammed against the black hull. For a brief moment the stars flashed, but the dreadnought did not falter. Instead, red lines of fire spread across its armor, pulsing like veins carrying blood. Its cannons opened in answer. A single blast, a lance of red light carved through the cruiser. The ship cracked open like glass under pressure. Pieces of it drifted silently, glowing in the void. On Earth, people watched the skies as glowing fragments fell like meteors. Children clung to their parents, staring upward with wide eyes, not in fear, but in awe. Humanity had been silent for so long that even its own children had not seen the dreadnoughts awake. Now the skies burned with proof that the world they lived on was not weak. High above, the alien commander tried to hold his fleet together. "Form the wall," he cried, his voice sharp with desperation. Dozens of alien ships moved to obey, forming a shield formation. Their weapons locked on a single dreadnought. Together they fired. The void filled with blue light as their cannons released a storm of fire. The human ship disappeared inside the blaze. For a moment, hope touched the alien commander's chest. Perhaps their numbers could still hold. Perhaps this was only a bluff, but when the light faded, the dreadnought still stood. Its hull was blackened but unbroken. Its cannons glowed with rage, brighter now than before. It answered with 3 blasts. The first split their formation in half. The second tore apart a battleship at the center. The third shattered their command vessel into fragments. The alien wall collapsed. Their defense had lasted only seconds, Across the galaxy, alien worlds watched in silence. From hidden observatories and distant outposts, signals carried the images of Earth's dreadnoughts breaking a fleet that had once seemed unstoppable. Leaders who had laughed at Earth's quiet world now stared at the truth with pale faces. They whispered to one another in fear. If Earth has such weapons, what else are they hiding? The humans still did not speak often. Their ship spoke for them. With each strike, the dreadnoughts carved a message into the stars. Earth was not prey. Earth was not weak. Humanity had built a fire too bright to ignore. Inside one of the dreadnoughts, a young officer stood at his console. His eyes were steady as he guided the fire of his ship. He had grown up hearing the stories, whispers from his parents, tales from his teachers, warnings passed in secret. The world had always told him that one day the silence would end. Now he stood in that moment, his hands controlling the storm that shook the galaxy. For the first time, he felt the weight of what his people had prepared. For the first time, he understood why the world had stayed so quiet for so long. Back in orbit, the alien commander faced a choice. His fleet was burning. His ships, once proud symbols of galactic power, now floated as wreckage. If he stayed, his name would be remembered in shame. If he retreated, the galaxy would still know that he had failed. He clenched his hands, his pride shattering with every passing second. He gave the order to retreat. The surviving alien ships turned sharply, their engines burning bright as they fled toward the outer rim. But the dreadnoughts did not allow an easy escape. They advanced, their guns tracking the retreating fleet. One by one, alien ships exploded in flashes of red light, their wreckage left drifting in the cold dark. Only a fraction managed to break free, vanishing into the void with terror burning in their minds. The battle was over. Silence returned, but it was no longer the silence of weakness. It was the silence of fear. The dreadnoughts stood still, their massive forms casting shadows over Earth's skies, their weapons cooled, their red glow fading back into black steel. They had done what they were made for. They had shattered the arrogance of the galaxy. On Earth, the people cheered. Cities roared with voices that had once stayed quiet. The secret was no longer hidden. Humanity had shown its hand and the galaxy had seen the truth. But within the command halls of Earth, the leaders did not cheer. Their faces were calm, their voices steady. They knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy would not forget what it had seen. It would return, not with scouts or small fleets, but with the full force of empires determined to crush the human rise. The dreadnoughts had won the first clash. But greater storms were already on the horizon. Escalation and shock, the wreckage of the alien fleet still drifted across the edge of Earth's skies when the news spread across the stars. Signals raced faster than light, carrying images of black warships and burning cruisers. Worlds far from Earth stopped in silence as the broadcasts played. Leaders who once mocked humanity now sat frozen in their chambers, their voices caught in their throats. The whispers were the same everywhere. The humans are not weak. The humans are not defenseless. Alien empires that had stretched their hands across the galaxy now trembled. Armadas that had crushed dozens of species now looked small compared to the black giants rising from Earth. For centuries, humanity had been dismissed as a quiet world, too young, too fragile to matter. But with a single battle, the lie had ended. On a distant council world, alien elders gathered in panic. Their chamber was vast, glowing with crystal light, their voices carried across hundreds of systems. They argued, shouted, demanded answers. How can they have such ships? How could we have missed this? But no voice carried an answer. Humanity had played a game no one else understood. While others showed their power openly, humans had hidden theirs in silence, building strength in the dark. One elder spoke in a hushed tone, her eyes wide with fear. If this is what they built while pretending to be weak, what will they build now that the secret is gone? The chamber fell silent at her words. Back on Earth, the dreadnoughts stood in formation. Their hulls were scarred from fire, but their presence was unbroken. Cities across the planet celebrated. People filled the streets, raising their eyes to the black giants that floated above them like guardians. Children waved flags, their voices rising in songs of victory. For the first time in history, humanity felt not small but infinite, their pride stretching beyond the sky. But inside the command halls of Earth, the leaders did not smile. Their faces were cold, their voices heavy. They knew what the galaxy would do next. The empires would not forgive. The species who had once mocked Earth would not stay silent. They would return with vengeance, with fleets so large that the first battle would look like nothing. The admirals stood before their maps, glowing red with thousands of star systems. They spoke in low voices. The galaxy will unite against us now. They will not let this stand. We must be ready for the storm. And already the storm was gathering. From the edges of the galaxy, fleets began to move. Dozens of species who had once competed with one another, now prepared to fight together. Pride had turned to fear, and fear had turned to hate. Their leaders declared that humanity must be crushed before it grew even stronger. They promised their people victory. They promised that Earth's silence would be forced forever. In the cold of space, the dreadnoughts prepared again. Their engineers walked the glowing halls, their hands touching steel walls that hummed like living creatures. Each ship was more than a weapon. It was a symbol, a promise that humanity would never again be prey. The second wave came without warning. Thousands of alien ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. Their numbers stretched across the black, their lights glowing like stars. This was no scouting fleet. This was an armada built to erase a world. When the first human sensors caught the movement, alarms rang across Earth. Cities fell into silence. Families gathered in homes, watching the skies with breath held tight. They knew the battle was not finished. They knew the dreadnoughts would rise again. The armada advanced. Its ships carried the banners of dozens of empires united for one cause, the destruction of humanity. Their cannons charged, glowing with blue fire. Their commanders shouted in pride, trying to hide the fear burning in their hearts. They believed that numbers would save them. They believed that even if a single dreadnought could burn their ships, 1,000 ships could overwhelm it. But humanity had not built one dreadnought. They had not built 10. They had built an army. From the oceans, from the mountains, from the shadows of distant moons, more dreadnoughts rose. Dozens, then hundreds, their black hulls glowing red with energy. The sky filled with giants, each one larger than the last, their presence swallowing the stars. The galaxy had never seen such a fleet. It was not an army built in pride but in silence, crafted for the day when survival would demand everything. The alien armada faltered at the sight. Their commanders shouted for them to keep moving, to hold the line, but whispers of fear spread faster than orders. Their soldiers had come to fight prey, but now they stood before predators. The first shots echoed. Alien fire streaked across the void, blue and white bolts slamming against the wall of dreadnoughts. Explosions flashed across the black, shaking the heavens. For a heartbeat, it seemed as if the aliens might break through. Then the dreadnoughts answered, their cannons lit with red fire, brighter than suns, brighter than anything the galaxy had ever seen. They fired in unison, a storm of energy that tore through the armada. Alien cruisers vanished in blinding light. Battleships shattered into fragments. Entire formations dissolved in seconds. On alien worlds, the broadcast showed the destruction in real time. Citizens screamed as they watched their proud fleets turn to ash. Children hid their faces. Leaders shouted for the broadcast to end, but it was too late. The galaxy had already seen. The galaxy already knew. Back on Earth, the people stood in silence. They were not cheering now. They were not singing. They watched with wide eyes as their dreadnoughts destroyed thousands of ships with ease. Pride filled them, but also something deeper, a fear of what their own hands had built. The admirals inside Earth's halls spoke in quiet voices. This is only the beginning. The galaxy will not stop. They will return again and again until either they fall or we do. The war had escalated. The silence had shattered. And the galaxy, once so certain of its power, now shook with shock at the fire rising from a single blue world. The revelation and aftermath, the battle shook the heavens. Alien wreckage drifted across the void, glowing fragments turning into falling stars. Thousands of ships had come to erase Earth, but now their remains floated silent, scattered across the solar system like broken glass. The dreadnoughts moved through the field slowly, their engines humming like thunder rolling across the dark. Each ship was scarred but unbroken. Their black armor still gleamed with red fire, proof that humanity had survived the storm. The surviving alien ships fled in chaos, their engines burning bright as they vanished into the void. No formation, no pride, no order, and only fear. Across the galaxy, messages poured into councils and empires. Earth has risen. Humanity is no longer prey. The dreadnoughts have shattered us. Those words carried like poison, infecting the minds of leaders who once believed themselves untouchable. On Earth, the people gathered in silence. Their skies glowed with the passing shadows of dreadnoughts. The cheers that had filled cities after the first battle were gone now. Instead, the streets were filled with quiet faces, eyes lifted upward with both awe and unease. They were proud, yes. They were safe, yes. But they were also afraid of what their own world had revealed. For centuries, they had whispered of secret weapons. Now those secrets had become gods of war. Inside the command halls, the admirals stood over maps of burning systems. Their voices were low, their expressions hard. One of them spoke the words that every soul in the room already knew. The galaxy will never forgive this. We have broken their pride. They will come again and they will bring everything. Another admiral shook his head. Let them come. For centuries they believed us weak. They mocked our silence. But silence is not weakness. Silence is preparation. His eyes gleamed in the red glow of the maps, and now the galaxy knows what we are. On a distant world, the alien commander who had led the first attack stood in shame before his council. His voice was broken, his body trembling as he recalled the dreadnoughts rising from the moon, from the oceans, from the mountains of Earth. His people spat at his name. His leaders stripped him of command. But even as they punished him, they knew the truth he carried was not a lie. Humanity had dreadnoughts, and those dreadnoughts had broken fleets that should have been invincible. In the chambers of the galaxy's most ancient empire, elders whispered in fear. If humanity could hide such strength for so long, what else can they hide? No answer came, for no answer was safe. The dreadnoughts stood guard around Earth like silent sentinels. They did not pursue the fleeing armadas. They did not fire again. Their message had already been carved into the stars. The galaxy had been given a warning. Earth was not to be touched. For the humans who lived beneath their shadow, life began to change. Farmers looked to the skies and felt safer than ever before. Children grew up with the silhouettes of dreadnoughts etched into their memories. Workers walked the streets knowing their planet was no longer alone. Pride swelled in every heart, but so too did a heavy truth. Humanity had revealed its fire, and the galaxy would never forget. Across alien worlds, fear twisted into something darker. Empires that had once competed now plotted together. Armadas that had once fought each other now began to unite. Humanity's rise had forced a question onto the galaxy. Would they bow to this new power, or would they crush it before it grew unstoppable? But among the humans there was no fear of the future. They had lived for centuries as prey, always underestimated, always mocked. Now the silence of Earth was broken, and in that silence's place was thunder. One final message spread from Earth, carried on signals that reached every star. It was not a threat, not a plea, not a boast. It was a truth spoken in a steady human voice. We hid our strength because we knew you would fear it. You called us weak because we were silent. But silence does not mean surrender. It means patience. And when the time came, we chose not to beg, not to bend, but to rise. Remember this. Humanity will never kneel. The galaxy trembled at those words. They echoed across systems, across empires, across every corner of the stars. The war was not over. Greater storms would come. Armadas larger than any yet seen would one day descend on Earth. Humanity knew this. The leaders of Earth knew this. But fear did not fill their hearts. Because the dreadnoughts stood ready, silent guardians of a world that had once been mocked, now feared by all. In the end, the galaxy learned a truth it would never forget. Weakness had been an illusion. Silence had been a mask. And when humanity tore that mask away, the stars themselves shook. The galaxy had thought Earth defenseless. But then the dreadnoughts rose, and in their rise, the silence of the human race was shattered forever.